And good morning and welcome to the Saturday, September 9th, 2017 edition of Auto Talk. I am your host, Ed Welsh, and for the rest of this hour, we'll be discussing matters that are of pertinence to you and your automobile. As always, we hope to impart to you some useful automotive information and perhaps provoke some automotive conversation on this very fall-like day here in the Mohawk Valley, and we can be thankful that we're not seeing the wind and the storms that our friends down south are. We hope and pray that nobody gets hurt and that property damage is minimized. We'll talk a little bit about the effects of all that on gasoline a little bit later this morning. And we do have a lot of things to talk about today. So first, I want to get to our car care tip of the week. And we're going to talk about memory savers. Now, I'm not talking about the stuff that you see on late night TV that you buy in the bottle. I'm not talking about your memory. I'm talking about your car's memory. And why should you even bother thinking about saving your memory? Well, we'll talk about that. You know, sooner or later, the time's going to come where your car's battery is going to need to be replaced. And again, automobile batteries typically last 4 to 5 years before they stop holding a charge. And of course, depends. I've seen them last longer, and I've seen them last 3 years, depending on how they're used. And of course, we'll talk about, as we get towards fall car care, about getting your battery tested. But what happens when you need one? And in the old days, we would just take the battery terminals off and, pop it out of the car and pop a new one in, right? Well, keep this in mind. Using a memory saver can save you time, money, and keep your car's computers running with the correct data they need to continually operate the complex systems that you have in today's cars. Now, as we know, our cars today run on a network of computers. It controls the engine, the brakes, the airbags, the information systems, and it's basically a computerized vehicle that we're in today. Each computer stores information about your car's performance and your driving characteristics. And in the computer business, it's called VRAM. Now, VRAM means volatile random access memory. So when you remove your battery and take it out of the car, there's a good chance that you're going to lose that information. Now, your car will relearn some of that information over time, but it also might have to be reprogrammed if you don't use a memory saver. So what is a memory saver? Well, it's simply a connection to a small battery that has just enough voltage and current to keep all the computer memory alive while the main battery is being changed out in the car. The connectors plug into the car's what used to be called the cigarette lighter, which I really don't think people use it for that much anymore, but in many cases they would plug it into the cigarette lighter, or you can put it in the OBD2 connection, which is under the dashboard, right about where you'd find your left foot above the dash, or below the dash, pardon me, where you're above your foot, below the dash. Now, the way to use a memory saver is very, very simple. Before you disconnect the main battery from the vehicle, you want to make sure that your car's turned off, right? And you plug it in with a small battery attached into the cigarette lighter or the OBD2 connector. As I said, the OBD2 connector is located under the driver's side of the dashboard, and in many vehicles it's on the steering column. Some of them are right on the bottom panel of the dash. It's not hard to find once you start looking around under there. And of course, once that thing's plugged in, you can remove the battery. By the way, when you remove the old battery, make sure that the positive battery wire is not touching the car's body. Because if you think about it, right, you've just plugged in an electrical source into your car, which means you could take a voltage reading right at your positive battery terminal. So when you take the battery terminal off, the wire, the battery itself, the wire that connects to the battery, positive battery wire, you really don't want to lay that on something metal. You'll basically short the little 9 volts that you're running through there. What a lot of guys do is they put them in a plastic bag, like a baggie, and then set it down so basically we don't have to worry about it. That's probably not a bad idea. You can grab one out of the kitchen, an old bag, one from the grocery store. The idea, though, is to cover it so you don't accidentally touch metal with it when you're pulling the battery out. Then, of course, install the new battery, connect attach the connectors, and you're on your way, right? And finally, once you put that in there, the battery's in, all secure, you unplug the memory saver, and that's it. Your car will start up with a fresh new battery, and your clock will have kept the time. Your favorite radio station, like this one, you would already have pre-programmed. And most importantly, your dashboard will not become a Christmas tree of warning and fault lights that just light up the car. And you're going to say, what did I do? Now, there's different types of memory savers out there. And the cheapest and easiest one is a cable that has a connection for a 9-volt battery, the old transistor style battery. It plugs into the cigarette lighter. And basically you simply plug in the cable in the same place, kind of like where you put in your phone charger. It works just like that. You just plug it in and connect the battery to it and you're good to go. But there's a caveat to this, and it's really important you pay attention to this one tip, because many cars do not have power to the cigarette lighter if the car is turned off. What you really want to make sure is that the power stays live to that even with the car turned off, because otherwise it's not going to feed the system. So, in other words, you want to find out if that's an open or closed circuit when the car is not running. Kind of an important thing to do. In the case of that, if it doesn't stay live when you shut the car off, having a memory saver that plugs into that port is useless to you. And of course, you would need one that plugs into the OBD2 connector, as I mentioned earlier. Now, cars built in the last 15 years generally have cigarette lighters that work only when the car is running. So I don't want to say every car is like that, but you want to check to make sure. In which case, if your car doesn't have an unswitched cigarette lighter, one that stays powered all the time, and then you're gonna need a memory minder that works off the OBD2 connector. Now, that is basically the difference between the two. And when you go to buy one of these things, again, this cable plugs into the OBD2 connector on one side and the battery on the other side. Now, there's several types, but the best ones are the ones with compact lithium-ion jumpstart batteries in them. That's a more expensive option. One of the nice things about that is it will actually help jumpstart the car if you actually had a dead battery. But again, you can find one of these at pretty much any auto store, and get the one that plugs into the 9-volt battery, and there you go. You can also check things out online to see what's available through Amazon, eBay, and the like. But I think before you get one of these, the main thing is to make sure that you know in your car that if you shut the power off, you can either use the one that plugs into the cigarette lighter or don't. And the best way to probably test that is to see if your phone will charge. If you got a phone charger that plugs into it, see if your phone charges when the car's shut off. That'd be the easiest way to test that, to see if you got voltage. Of course, you can always just take a meter and check it that way yourself, but a quick way would be to put your phone charger in there and then see if your phone continues to charge with the car shut off. Good thing to note. And then perhaps you can avoid losing your memory when you go to pull your car's battery out.